You know that feeling, right? That the housing market is just completely broken? But what if the problem isn't some big crash we're all waiting for, but something totally different? What if it's a deep freeze, a crisis where basically nobody can move? Today, we are going to dive into this mobility crisis and a really fascinating idea for how to finally thaw things out.
Okay, so first up, the frozen housing market. Why is everyone so stuck? See, this isn't the kind of housing crisis we're used to, with falling prices and foreclosures. This is what experts are calling a mobility crisis. That whole American dream of climbing the housing ladder, starter home, then the family home, then downsizing, that entire system, well, it's pretty much frozen solid.
And you've probably felt it, haven't you? It doesn't matter if you're trying to buy your first place and you're totally locked out, or you're in a growing family that's run out of room, or maybe you're a retiree who just wants to downsize. The whole thing just feels stuck. So what in the world is causing this paralysis?
This quote from Moran just absolutely nails it. The market hasn't really lost its value, it's lost its movement. And why? Well, the biggest reason is that millions and millions of homeowners are sitting on these crazy low mortgage rates from a couple of years back. For them, moving would mean taking on a much, much higher monthly payment. So they're staying put. It's a thing people are calling payment lock.
And this gridlock, it traps everybody. First-time buyers can't find starter homes because no one's selling them. The people in those starter homes can't afford to move up to a bigger place. And even the downsizers are stuck because there's nowhere for them to go. The result? Well, you get whole neighborhoods that are just aging in place, with no new families moving in. The housing ladder is, for all intents and purposes, broken.
So the big question is, how do we thaw this thing out? The usual answers seem to give us a pretty terrible choice. It might be time to look for something different, a third path.
And this right here, this shows the trap that so many communities fall into. On one side, you can just do nothing and watch as a neighborhood slowly stagnates and declines. On the other side, you can go all in on huge development projects, which almost always leads to gentrification, displacement, and massive price spikes. Let's be honest, both of those options really fail the people who already live there.
So let's talk about that third path. It's called the Neighborhood Price Stabilization Protocol, or NPSP for short. And it's a really innovative model that offers a way to carefully add new housing and get things moving again. But, and this is the key part, without causing those destructive shockwaves of gentrification.
So how does it actually work? Well, the core idea is kind of brilliant in its simplicity. You just build in slow motion. Let's take a look at what that really means. Okay, so instead of dropping, say, 100 new houses on a neighborhood all at once, the NSPS model builds in these small, really controlled batches. We're talking maybe just 5 homes a year, built on empty lots that are already there. Each time a small batch of homes sells, it sets a new, slightly higher price point, a new comparable for the area. This process gently and, most importantly, predictably lifts the whole market up over time.
I mean, just look at the difference here. On the left, that's the shock of a big development project, that huge sudden price spike that can throw a whole community into chaos. But on the right, that's the NSPP model. See? It's stable, it's predictable, it's a gradual growth that actually makes the neighborhood stronger.
Now, of course, this slow and steady approach doesn't just happen by accident. It takes a ton of discipline, both financially and in the design of the homes. Let's get into the smart money and modest homes that make this all possible.
A huge piece of the puzzle is just keeping the costs down. We're not talking about building luxury condos here. We're talking about practical, about 1,400 square foot starter homes, with a target all-in cost of around $200,000. That's what makes the whole model work financially.
So right at the start, the program has this hurdle called the appraisal gap. That's just a fancy way of saying that in a stagnant market, it costs more to build a new house than what you can sell it for. So as you see here, you might need a small subsidy to bridge that gap at first. But by year 3, because those new home sales have started to slowly lift values, the program breaks even. And by year 5, it can actually start generating a surplus, becoming totally self-sustaining. Pretty cool, right? And that financial plan is supported by really strict design rules. This is to stop something called luxury creep. The homes are modest in size, they're designed to fit in with the style of the neighborhood, and they use finishes that are durable, not super high-end. The whole point is to build homes that are seen as comparable to the houses already there, not as some separate, fancy new class of housing. Which brings us to what is honestly the most important part of this whole model. The NPSP isn't just about building houses. It's about protecting the community, the people, who are already there.
I mean, check out these safeguards that are literally built right into the system. It only targets vacant lots, so nobody gets displaced. The slow growth in home values means no sudden shocking property tax hikes for homeowners who've been there for decades. And there's a whole bunch of rules that give priority to local buyers and require them to live in the home, which stops those speculative investors from coming in and flipping houses for a quick buck.
You know, in a world that is completely obsessed with moving fast and disrupting everything, this whole model presents a pretty radical idea. What if the real key to fixing our broken housing market is to just slow down? Could this patient, deliberate, community-first approach be how we finally unfreeze our markets and rebuild that housing ladder for everyone? It's definitely something to think about.